Hi, it's James from the Compassion Project, and I'm here with Claire Wilde from Edmonton.
Hi.
Claire was nice enough to offer to do a chat with me. I'm so excited. So a little bit about Claire. She has her master's in educational psychology in counseling. She got that in year 2000 and has been a registered psychologist since 2001.
Yeah.
She works with individuals, couples, and families, specializing in transitioning to parenthood, processing trauma, and changing unhealthy patterns of coping, which we all could use right now. She's also level 3 trained in the Gottman method. I have to say, I don't really know what that is. Maybe you can tell me. And a certified EMDR therapist, which that's to do with trauma, right?
Yes. So EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's one of the 2 World Health Organization approved treatments for trauma. And so, yeah, it's amazing. And as it turns out, typically it's done in person. But during this time, as I've transitioned to telephone and video counseling primarily, it's been working through video. Which is incredible to do that healing of old trauma wounds.
Oh, that's amazing. So, and what is the Gottman method? We might as well clarify that.
So, sure. The Gottman Institute is out of Seattle, and they are an institute that has done quite a bit of studying on relationships and what's the key to the masters of relationships versus the disasters. They even had a love lab there years and years ago where they just brought couples in, watched them in action, and then tracked, measured like stress response, stuff like that, and then tracked who stayed together and who broke up or stayed together and was miserable. And they came up with a ton of really cool information about couples that has really been transformative in a lot of ways for couples counseling. And so you can go through various training levels in that journey of that. And
you're level 3.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, and I think it would be so interesting too right now with the social distancing and couples spending a lot more time together. Okay, so a little bit more about Claire. She's married to her husband, Doug, for 13 years, and they have 2 boys. Spencer's 12 and Cameron is 9. And I just have to read a little quote that I read on your Facebook because I love reading quotes people put. You'll be like, I don't remember, but I loved it. It says, I cannot believe that the purpose of life is to be happy. I think the purpose of life is to be useful, responsible, and compassionate. It is above all to matter, to count, to stand for something, to have made some difference that you lived at all. And I was like, totally loved that. Right? We all want to have a purpose. We all want to know that we matter.
Yeah.
Right? And the other thing we're going to talk about is Claire. I saw on Facebook that she went to a wedding, and we'll have to talk about this social distancing wedding.
Gosh, it was amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's start with the wedding.
Okay. We got invited to, my husband's niece actually was getting married, and she'd planned this from before, right? Probably January, we got our invitations, I want to say. And so the idea at their church that they belonged to, we were all excited about it. We planned a shower, all this stuff. And then, right, we had new rules. So we made up a new sort of wedding shower where we made a little video for her, and she loved it. So she was like, oh, this is almost better because now I can keep this, right? This beautiful message, that we had all sort of sent. Okay. And then, so she kept this save the date because obviously in Edmonton, gatherings need to be less than 15 people. So very tiny wedding. And so we just kind of assumed, initially I had assumed that we just wouldn't be invited or we were kind of sitting in limbo, but she was like, no. So that really built this excitement because for ages we were just like, ooh, what's going to happen? It's a save the date, which is super fun. And then we were told it was a drive-in wedding. So the church
drive-in wedding.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yes. So that we could all stay in our vehicles. We got these like nice little page of instructions, so organized, that girl. Um, where we there's probably about 5 of us that decorated our vehicles because hey, if you're going to be in a parking lot, then you better have like your vehicle all dressed up.
Yeah.
Right? And drove in. We got placed in a spot. It was live streamed, and then we also there was a radio station that we dialed into,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so we're sitting there waiting. We got some snacks as we drove in. And then the vehicles, like some black vehicles and white vehicles, drove in, and we were like, ooh, the wedding party.
So you actually had no idea how this was going to go.
No,
Oh,
no.
that's so cool.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
So the bridal
And
party
then,
came in their vehicles. That was the procession.
so they parked at one end, and then they stopped. We were told to roll down our windows so that the music from our radio would be playing, and then we could see them walk up, because that
Oh,
the procession up the aisle, it matters, right? And so
yeah.
see her in her dress, like see him walk up, see the bridesmaids, the groomsmen, see her walk up. It was so beautiful.
So
And
if were they on a stage? Like, did they walk up onto a stage?
so then they went into the church, and then at that point, then we could watch it on live feed, right? So on our
Oh,
tablets that we had. Um, and so we knew that it was going to be live streamed, so we could watch it, and which was also beautiful. And then at the end, we all started honking our horns so that we could just like,
amazing.
congratulations. Yes. And then, so then they come out, and then they all lined up, nicely spaced out, and we did a receiving line. So as we all of our cars, one after another, got to like say hello, congratulations, as we went through the receiving line, got to them, had a few words with them, dropped off our gift at the end.
That's amazing.
Yes.
So you
right.
stayed in your car and you would just, because then you're,
Yeah.
okay,
And then
she's
we were
super creative.
so creative. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of weddings have been canceled. So
I
many weddings have
know,
been
I
canceled.
know. And you know what? They were just like, they were ready to get married. And I feel like when we're ready to get married, we're ready to get married. And so,
Yeah.
and I think that it was such a beautiful example to me of really, they had clearly thought about the things that mattered to them,
Yeah.
like to them as a couple, um, to about the pieces of the wedding, and made sure to figure out ways of having that happen,
That's
to have
incredible. What's her name? The bride's name?
Kennedy.
Kennedy?
Yeah.
And what's the groom's name?
Bryce.
Kennedy and Bryce. Okay, that's amazing. Congratulations, Kennedy and Bryce.
Congratulations to them. Yes.
You're gonna
Yes.
have a good marriage because that's problem solving. Okay?
Right. Working together. And then a smaller group of us had brought some food and just met up in the parking lot to kind of do a little, our own little tailgate gathering afterwards. Because that's
cool.
right. So we got out of our vehicles, stood 6 feet apart, did some visiting that way. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Right. And you realize, to me, I just feel like we need more rituals of as we are transitioning in our lives. Those are so meaningful when we bring our community together.
Yeah.
And I just think it turns out there are ways to have that.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone, like the people I've been talking to, and from entrepreneurs to like brides, like that, to so many businesses, schools, the teachers are adapting. I think that's a big word. We all have to adapt and change, which is good. Change is good.
Yeah. And really remembering that it's physical distancing, not social distancing, that we are coming together socially connected.
Yeah. So, and how are you doing personally? So, just want to go back a bit to when you first started realizing, okay, this is a thing. Things are actually closing. I'm going to have to make some changes. Were you going to an office before? Is that where you were doing your counseling?
That's right.
And then are you still going to the office?
Yeah, I stayed going the whole time. So Alberta psychologists were always considered an essential service. We unless it was an emergency, we all transitioned over to telephone or video counseling.
Okay.
And then in my office, because I have chairs that can be over 6 feet apart, there's a waiting room where people can be over 6 feet apart, like we can follow all the rules here. Then I was able to see a few sort of urgent people that needed to be seen, and have now been able to see a few more people, right? Have a little bit more.
I would think that you would be so busy, because isn't this just such a hard time for families and couples?
Sure. Yeah, it's a lot of transition. I think, I mean, it's been varied. Actually, in the first couple of weeks, actually, I saw fewer people. I think a big part of that was that people were really trying to just figure it out. Like, they didn't have time to like pause and do therapy. They were all of a sudden home.
Yeah.
Lots of them working from home, homeschooling. Unfortunately, a set of people lost their benefits, and so that made it harder to access counseling for some people.
Sure.
Now, I think as people started to like go, okay, this isn't just like a 2-week thing. This is a bit of a new normal. People have started to figure out how to sort of manage and do their lives in a way that allows them to also think about themselves and do some processing of what's happening for them.
Yeah, I worry because I feel like, even for me, like I mean, I live a good life. I have a beautiful home. But there's a lot that you have to go through that we're missing. But I just really feel for families that were struggling before, or someone that's alone, or maybe they didn't have,
Yeah. And that it was interesting for me from an emotional adjustment perspective, because the first probably 3, maybe even 4 weeks, I really, like, as much as my life didn't change that much, I felt all of that, right? Like the increase of domestic violence, I worried about that. I worried about hopelessness. I worried about people who were losing their jobs, and how were they going to manage emotionally, all of that stuff. That weighed really heavy on me. And so I really needed to intentionally put some good self-care into place to really, and talk through that. I've got some really great colleagues and friends to really process that, those feelings about that, and really and come out the other side, start getting back to seeing people's resiliency, starting to see, okay, right, people are figuring this out.
Right. And finding the grace in the chaos, they say. There's so much grace and amazing stories that are coming out of this.
Yes, right. And
so how are you doing? Your boys are now being homeschooled?
Yes. And so we were lucky. So my husband's a teacher, but he had gone on leave this last year. So because my boys ended up going to 2 different schools, we decided I would be the full-time worker, and that he would be at home. So for us, and in Alberta, we got told literally Sunday night that there was no school Monday morning. Like, we were
really? You had no warning at all?
No warning at all. It was literally, there was 1 week left till spring break, and Sunday night it came on the news at like 4:30 or something that there would be no school that week, and no school kind of indefinitely. There was no timeline put on.
Goodness. I wonder how many women drank wine that night.
So we were really, really fortunate, because my husband's just home. And so he was, right, that now my oldest son is on the spectrum. That was probably one of the more challenging things, because obviously he had a lot of questions about
your husband, your oldest son, Spencer, is on the autism spectrum.
Yes.
And did you go to a different school than your?
Yeah, he actually is going to a regular school. My younger son, this past year, he loves hockey, so he moved over to a hockey academy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So oldest who really thinks ahead, really likes having a plan, likes having consistency, routines.
Right.
So then to have his whole world change like that, we had a lot of conversations about this and about
Right.
what this was going to look like and maintaining a certain amount of routine. So I know in our home, we were talking a little bit before you and I about this. In our home, one of the things that really grounds us is having these conversations about needs versus wants, and making sure that all of us are getting our needs met. Whatever's going on as we go through different stages in our lives, that all of us are different human beings and we all have these different needs and these different wants. And we need to start from a place of meeting everybody's needs. And then once those are met, then we can get some wants met.
Yeah. And don't you think it's so important? I mean, I've been married 32 years and we do have a really good marriage, but I have learned, and actually this is from advice from my mom years ago, that I would want my husband to know what I needed. I guess I thought it was romantic. He should know that I need a hug or that I need, so then we could have ended up years ago, like, fighting or something, because I felt like he didn't love me if he didn't know that I needed what I needed. And I remember calling my mom upset, and she said to me, he can't read your mind. You need to tell him you need a hug. This changed my marriage. She said to me, a hug is no less a hug because you asked for one.
Oh, beautiful. She's so wise. So wise.
And so what did I ask for yesterday? I was telling you this. My husband said, I'm going to go to Costco. Do you need anything? And I said, I do need something. I'll show you what he brought me back.
Okay.
I said, I need roses. And he showed up with roses.
Yeah.
Roses.
Because how was he going to know? How was he going to know otherwise?
So that's why So roses given to your wife are no less roses if you ask for them.
Yeah, right. And having this perspective that most of us are married to people who really want what's best for us. They want us to be happy. My husband wants, and it's interesting. I've had to challenge that a few times where I've fallen into that of like assuming that he should know what I need or what I want, and then feeling some disappointment and really going, okay, he actually really has my best interest at heart. And I have his best interest at heart. And so if he's not doing something, it's actually probably because he doesn't know.
Right. And I think as a wife, also knowing that their intention is in the right place. Sometimes they can say or do something and it can get offended or something can hurt you and you think, no, it's not about me. Right. Their intention is in the right place, and always assuming that someone's heart is good, like your husband. And the key, honestly, is communication. And I've told my daughters that, because sometimes, oh, you have such a good marriage, and some people, oh, you have such a good marriage. Like, yes, we do. But I tell him what I want.
Yeah.
Right? I tell him for my birthday, don't forget my birthday.
Right. And actually, maybe this is what I want. We've had some years for Christmas where we just ordered our own things. I'm like, yeah, this is actually what I want. So I know where I want to get it from. And he'll order his stuff. And then he wraps my stuff up, and I wrap his stuff up. And then we're like, oh, yay, we got this great thing.
You know how much better my marriage got when I started telling him what I needed? Because men are like fixers. They're like, oh, you need to go out for dinner? I'll take you out for dinner.
Okay, right? Yeah. And they're human beings and they need reminders, right? Just because I tell him once doesn't mean, okay, I need to tell him again sometimes.
Yeah. And I think we make each other feel important too.
Yeah. So I think that really helped in our home to sort of be thinking through that about one of the things I've tried to do with my husband. He's more of an introverted person than I am. And so I keep that in mind, that I'm away during the day. He's full on homeschooling and with the boys all day. And so really sort of, as much as I can, try to give him those breaks, try to sort of be thoughtful about that in the evening and on weekends. Or at least check in with him, right? About, does he need more of that? How's that going for him?
Yeah. And I think it's hard is it hard on your boys not seeing their friends? I think the social
Yeah,
side, or what's happening in Edmonton, are they
it's
transitioning into see?
so school is probably not opening till September.
Oh, okay.
And there's even some question about that. It's definitely, we're not supposed to be visiting. We've had a couple of sort of distancing visits with a friend or two where it's further away. We've had a couple of Zoom friend things. My youngest, who's 9, I think um, his birthday was yesterday, and so
Oh,
we did our best. Normally, he would have a big party, and he had been excited about that. So we checked in with what he wanted. He wanted a fish tank, so we got some fish and a fish tank. And
good.
he had a little Zoom gathering with a couple of friends. Um, it's looking like now we can just start to think about maybe having sort of a few people that are cohort people.
Okay,
Um,
yeah.
and so now we're starting to think about that, who that would be within our family. And,
Yeah.
to make sure they have some friend time. Um, we had a telephone call with my mom for his birthday, and she asked how it was, and he gave it a 92%.
That's
So
good.
I feel like that's good.
That's good. I'd be happy with that.
Right?
Kids are so resilient, and kids, I believe, is how the parents feel. If they see that you're excited as party, like my grandson also had to cancel his very first friend party. He was 6 years old, turning 6, and he loved it. He danced. We played pin the tail on the Minecraft pig or something. I don't know. We played. He was happy, happy, happy because we were happy.
Nice.
If we were like, oh, you poor thing, I mean, he would have.
Yeah, they totally picked that up, right? And so us
Yeah.
trying to like go, hey. Now we did have a discussion, and I realized I hadn't maybe been doing this enough, but when we were talking about getting fish, that's I said to both of them, because my oldest was also sort of interested in this idea of getting fish. And so what I said was he could choose one, and that my younger son could choose one that would be their COVID fish. And so because they've been little superstars, they've been heroes. And so I said, you guys have been saving lives. You guys have been at home. You guys have been distancing from your friends. That's not been super easy, but you guys have been amazing about it. And you guys are heroes for saving people's
Oh,
lives. And so the look on their faces of like, I was like, oh, we got to say this more often to
that
each
makes
other.
me want to cry because I think it's so important to acknowledge the kids and say, you're
Mhm.
doing so well through this. This is not easy for anyone, and we're proud of you. Like you are a hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Oh,
Well,
okay.
those
Well,
things we got to remember to say to each other and to ourselves and to our kids to have a good narrative about this.
I know, and how we talk to ourselves. I'm assuming you do really well with your mindset, or you find it challenging? Or are you pretty good on staying?
I'm pretty good about it. I've done a lot of work about it. So, right, there was that time of like sort of grieving for other people that I had to work through, feeling sort of just different kinds of feelings about stuff, which
Yeah.
no, I'm a big believer that it's important to also feel into those things and work through them to come to the
Mhm.
other side of that, you
Right.
know? Having some feelings about as things started to reopen and going, oh, I was actually getting really comfortable with this.
I know we're such creatures of habit. The first week we're all like, now what? And now we're all settling in.
Yeah, figuring out our grooves of stuff. And then it was like, oh, now we're starting to reopen. Now I don't know how I feel about that. Which
Boy.
actually, speaking of Costco, speaking of shopping, I've said this before to other people, but I actually am kind of enjoying being in lineups with 6 feet of distance. And I'm like, ooh, maybe we could keep this. Maybe there's a few things we could
Keep your
keep.
space. It's true.
Not for
I
weddings.
don't like grocery shopping anymore. I used
Mhm.
to find it very peaceful, relaxing go. And my husband stepped up. He does it because he'll wear the mask and he'll go out. I'll just ask for flowers now every time. I figured it out. Anyway, we should probably sign on. I thank you so much. Do you have a link for can people
Sure. Yeah, like I have a website.
Because you said you do on Zoom now?
We'll
put the link for your website.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
What is it?
Oh, it's Opal
What's
Psychology. Opalpsychology.ca.
Opal Psychology.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll put that in the comments. Thank you, Claire. You're amazing.
Oh, it was so great to chat with you. So great to chat with you.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Bye.